So if you were a parent who is thinking about helping their child learn some independent sleep skills, you've probably heard that one of the most important pieces is having your child go into the crib awake. You probably heard drowsy but awake, but I'm actually going to end that for you now. There really is no drowsy but awake after your child is a newborn. They are awake or asleep. It's as simple as that. So what we really want to have happen is that your child is going into the crib awake each and every sleep situation. So that means bedtime and naps, and learning to fall asleep on their own without an adult support. But the tricky part is, well, how do I do that? I know that they're asking me not to rock my child to sleep. They're asking me not to feed my child to sleep, but how exactly do I make that happen? So in this video today, we're gonna talk about the step-by-step to move away from rocking your child to sleep and to move away from feeding your child to sleep. So this is gonna have some very tactical skills to do in order to be able to move away from that, so your child is able to learn independent sleep skills so they can fall asleep and keep themselves asleep each and every time they wake up overnight. So let's start with the feeding, because nursing to sleep is actually the #1 sleep prop in children. It's so easy to have your child that's falling asleep while they're feeding, whether it be nursing or bottle feeding, because they're warm, they're cozy, they're snuggled in your arms, the lights are dim, the sound machine's probably on. It's a really comfortable, cozy environment. And sucking is a soothing method for a lot of children. It works the same as a pacifier, except there's just milk coming in. With a pacifier, there isn't. So that it makes sense that it is one of the biggest sleep props that children have, and it's the hardest one to move away from, because we still have to feed them. We still want them to eat and get a nice full feed before they go to bed so they can sleep their longest stretch of sleep after bedtime. So how do we make that happen? We want them to eat, but we don't want them to fall asleep. So we have to break that association. We want them to know that feeding is for feeding and sleep is for sleep, and that the two really aren't connected. This feed is not a means for a way for me to fall asleep. So one big tip that I always recommend to my families is to have the lights on and the sound machine off. We want to make the environment comfortable, but we don't want to make it so cozy that it is absolutely impossible for them to keep their eyes open. So we're going to keep lights on, we're going to keep sound machine off, we're going to have, still be talking, we're still going to be moving them, we're still going to be maybe telling them a story, talking to other people that might be in the room, in their bedroom. That's helping you get the child ready. We really want it to be calmer, but we don't want like complete chaos, but we don't want it so calm and quiet and comfortable that they're just easily gonna fall asleep. We wanna have some kind of stimulation so that they still are able to stay awake and for the entire duration of that feed. If you notice any long blinks, any staring off into the distance, anything like that, then you're going to unlatch them. Either pull the bottle out or unlatch them from the nipple, kind of sit them up, move them around, talk to them a little bit before continuing that feed. So in the beginning, these feeds could feel very interrupted. It could feel like it's taking a long time for them to get a full feed because we're constantly interrupting it to keep them awake. But that's okay. We want to make sure that they stay awake, not that they fall asleep and then we wake them up, because that's a whole other problem for a whole other video. Another thing that I recommend for children that are having trouble falling asleep during night feeds is that we have something in between the feed. So it's not just that we want to keep them awake during that initial feed, we also want to put something else in between that feed and going into the crib to sleep. So some families will kind of take this to the extreme, and they will do that feed at the very beginning of the bedtime routine, before a bath, before diaper, lotion, PJs, all of those things. You don't have to push it that far, but if it's really, like your child is really having trouble, they're really getting exhausted by the time bedtime routine ends, then you can move that feed forward just so they're not as tired once that feed starts. Typically, I like to just put a book or a song in between, something that will indicate the feed is now done. Now we are going to put you in your crib. So it could be a book. And I always start out really small with a book, because depending on your child's age, they may not be able to sit through a full book. So we just grab a book, we open the page. Here's a cow, oink. Here's a cow, boo boo. Here is a tree. Here is a dog. And then we close the book, and that is it. It doesn't have to be anything big and fancy. Once your child gets a little bit older, you can give them 2 choices and they can choose between what book they want to read. Once they're a little bit older and they have a great vocabulary, maybe you're reading the same book all the time and they can start to insert words and things like that. So there's so many good language incorporations for reading books. Again, that is another video that I can link to about the importance of reading books at bedtime that I have on my channel. But really putting something in between. Maybe it's a song that you sing together that always happens at bedtime. Maybe it's you go around and say goodnight to everything in your child's room. Whatever it may be, you want to ensure that there is something in between it. So now let's get into rocking to sleep, because this is also very, very common for children that have a lot of trouble falling asleep on their own. We have to do all of the motions to help them get to sleep. But the problem is, once they get into the crib is not going to continue to rock them. So anytime that they wake up overnight, they're going to know I'm not in a parent's arms and I'm also not moving. So I'm going to call out, I'm going to need some more support. I need that rocking again to get back to sleep. So my step-by-step for moving away from rocking to sleep into going to sleep independently is to have a very set endpoint for that rocking. You're going to stop at a particular time. So if you have a song or a story that you read them, we're going to rock until this song ends. We're going to rock until this story stops. We're not going to rock until you're asleep. We're going to rock until this very definitive end point, and then we're going to put you into the crib. So maybe at first we're doing 2 verses of a song. They're still tired, but they're awake, and then we put them in. Then we get to just 1 verse of the song before we put them in. So we can wean away the rocking a little bit, but again, there's no drowsy but awake. Do not waste your time trying to rock them to the perfect point where they can then fall asleep. You're just going to have that very definitive end point, put them in, and then soothe them from there. You can kind of mimic rocking. You can gently rock them while they're in the crib. You can gently, depending on the size of the crib, you can gently rock the entire crib to be able to replicate that motion while they are in there. But again, you want them to be able to move away from needing that motion to be able to fall asleep to being able to lay flat to fall asleep. So those are 2 big methods of how children struggle to fall asleep independently, and then the step-by-step of exactly what to do to move away from it. Now you're probably thinking the next step, well, what do I do after they go into the crib? Because they're probably going to cry. So if you are worried about your child crying and what to do from this point on, I want you to go to the pinned video on my channel. It is going to walk you through exactly how to do sleep training for your child without doing cry it out, because your choices are not to cry it out or to never sleep again. You have so much in the middle and so much support to be able to help your child fall asleep in a way that feels good to both you and them, and for them to be able to sleep the duration of the night. And that is exactly what I teach. I bring real life sleep strategies in with the sleep science to be able to make sure that everybody is getting the sleep that they need and deserve during the day. So if you are struggling with the after point of I've moved away, they are no longer falling asleep while they are feeding, they are no longer falling asleep while they are rocking, but now I need the next step, go to that pinned video on my channel and that's going to give you all the info. I will see you in the next video.